Now, when we started this project for Kiefer, all we were going to do is raise this thing up, steam clean it, and wash it underneath and paint it all black. Once we get going into it, we found out that our rear trailing arms were in the wrong spot. I found a brake line that ran the back and wrapped around the pedal for the clutch arm and into the back, so the brake lines were just horrible. Then I get the axle out, and you can see here, this is his front axle. If you look at the gears right here, you can see, and now Kiefer drove up here running 60, 70 miles an hour down the interstate, and as I turn this, you can see the carnage of teeth are just gone off of that. The pinion bearing on the front is just gone. So, at this point of this, being that I'm changing the tire size and the gear ratio, I can select a gear, since this one's got to be changed anyway. Go ahead and select one for the rear that'll put his high gear in the most premium spot on the interstate, so that he'll be around 1,500, 1,800 RPMs when he's in fifth gear running 70 miles an hour. You can call a company like Randy's Ring and Pinion. They have a formula to do that, to get that exact number with your gear. And what it'll do, it'll also give him a better range. His first gear will feel better. Every gear will feel better if you do that to the gear ratio, to the transmission, to the tire size. Now back out here on the frame, like I said, we weren't going to pull this frame out, but as we got to going, we had to cut these rear hangers off. We've had to fix welds. We've had to weld the bumpers welded on poorly. The frame body mounts on the sides had to be straightened. Some of them were broken off. Now you can see where we've got these. These were right up here, so we've moved these back in place. For some reason, all this they had in the right location, so they put this stuff in the right spot. They put this stuff in the wrong spot. And then as we're going along here, we just noticed the gas tank goes back here in the rear. They had the gas tank bolted to the bottom of the frame, had it sandwiched to the bottom of the body. So the body moves around and the gas tank is just rubbing on top of each other. So I've already got an appointment for this to go to the blast shop. When we get it back from the blast shop, then we'll put the gas tank in it, and we'll build our framework so that it'll hold the gas tank securely to the frame only. Well, we got our frame back from the blast shop, and I've got it here on the stand so we can start doing our prepping for it, but I want to show you the tank. We're fixing to fit this tank in place. They had these tack welded on top of here. One of them already broke off, and we'll actually put a strap across the tank and a strap across the frame. So this is actually secured just to the frame. So as it was connected to the frame on the bottom, and then the bottom of the cab right here. So this thing was just wiggling and carrying on, and just a recipe for disaster as time goes on. Now, our frame is completely blasted now. It was a lot more efficient for me to send this down and have it blasted. They blasted this for a couple of $100, where I could have spent all day sanding and prepping and doing everything and not got it near this condition right here. We went ahead and touched up a lot of the welds. Some of the welds still look a little rough where somebody else had done, so we're going to kind of touch them down just a little bit, and I'll probably take a little seam sealer and wipe across them just to make them look a little bit better. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about rust. Now this thing, it was blasted. The minute this thing was blasted and this metal was exposed to the atmosphere, it started oxidizing. You may not could have seen it, but if you could have got under a magnascope and really focused in on it, you could see where it starts to oxidize. So up here on the front is a good example of that. These are handprints from where it went from the blaster onto the truck, and then off the truck, and then into the shop. These did not show up the first day or the second day. They didn't start showing up till the third day. So if we would have epoxied right over this frame, even though it was straight from the blast shop, these would have actually blistered as time went on. What will happen is it starts oxidizing. It will create a little bit of a gas, swells the paint up, then you get a blister. But everywhere you see one of these rust spots, that would have been a blister and a paint failure as time goes on. So what I do to prevent that is we pickle this metal. So we'll get all this cleaned up, then we'll take this pickling, we'll put on gloves, and we'll pickle the entire thing with gloves on so nobody touches it, no dog walks by and licks it, or anybody coughs near it, or anything gets on this, it will blister. And then once it's pickled, put an epoxy on it. Just do not put a etching primer on it. You have to put an epoxy on it. If you do that combination right there, you will not believe how long your paint jobs will last. It eliminates the blisters. I've been doing this for about 15 years and have not had a blister yet. Thank goodness. Knock on wood. So hopefully today we're going to get all this done up, and we're going to get it painted black. get the tank mounted, and then we'll start assembling this thing. Well, we've got all of our pickling done. We've got it up here on our stands where we can paint all this. We're fixing to put our epoxy on. You can see we did a little seam sealing on some of the welds. I actually sealed up some of the other areas where I felt like water might go down into, and then some areas I left where I felt like I needed the water to come out if it rained on the other side when it's going to be sitting up at the on this normal side. But it is upside down right now. We'll paint all the bottom of this and paint everything we can get to on the top. Probably get pretty much all of it in epoxy and paint this time. Then when we flip it over the next time, it will be that way from now on, and if there's any spots that we missed on the other side, we'll be able to touch them up. But painting on the bottom side first is really going to allow us to get all that paint up under the bottom of it extremely well. So we're fixing to mix up our epoxy. We'll put that on. We're going to let that set for about an hour. Then we'll come back and put on our single stage urethane on it, and I'll show you what it looks like. Well, we've got our frame flipped back over, and I was able to come back and shoot some more paint in some of the holes on the top side that we couldn't really get to when it was upside down. But in doing it this way, underneath it has got an outstanding coat of epoxy and then paint on the bottom side as well as the top side. So now it's time to start putting this thing back together. But I want to take a minute and talk to you about how these jobs evolve. We started out, all we were going to do was raise this truck up, steam clean it, spray it black underneath. Then as we get to going along, we find out that these are in the wrong place. We had to relocate them. We found the mounts for some of the body mounts were kind of broke off and bent. The rear of the bumper had to be plated and welded. The front of the bumper had to be plated and welded. And it just went into so much that it was easier for us to pull this body off and then do this work, which creates a lot more work. But it's like building a foundation in a house. If we'd have just kept going, no matter how good a paint job or how good of stuff that we've done, there's always going to be issues down here in the lower part of this, and you're going to have trouble with stuff. So this way, it gives me good confidence to know I can put this together and make a good, solid, dependable vehicle by doing it this way, and then go from there. I just hate we had to get a little off track with pulling this frame out, because we didn't plan on pulling this frame out and doing as much work as we did. But it's going to make an outstanding vehicle when we get done with it. So now from this point, we're going to start putting all of our suspension back together. As we also found out we had gears busted in the front end. We'll have to redo the front axle, probably put matching gears in the rear axle, then get all that done, get that up under it, and this thing will look like a big model car when we get done, because we're going to have nice finished axles under it, nice big new tires under it. We're going to have that painted nice motor in here, brand new transmission. We'll be able to do every bit of that right here, and it will look outstanding. So I'm excited about putting it back together, so let's get to work on this thing.